Satnamji, yogis, yoginis, hello. So let's talk today about mantras. We're gonna do a little mantra course. A little. It's gonna go quite in depth. It's gonna be growing slowly. We're gonna talk about history of mantra yoga, history of sound and language. We're gonna go, but history, like very interesting history, very interesting ideas that are expressing how important language is for us as humans, not only to communicate, but actually for our well-being. And we're going to see a lot about that today. We're going to talk also about why do we not translate the mantras. That's going to come today. And in the following videos, this will be like a course. On the following videos, we're going to go slowly, little by little, understanding and experiencing how different sounds affect our body and our mind and psyche. I'm going specifically for the consonants, the vowels, every little thing, slowly experiencing it and exploring how is it that it affects us so that we can understand better not only the effect of mantras, but the effect of any sound, even, for example, the sound of your own name. How does your name vibrate in you? So that's coming up, something to look forward to. But it's something we have to build up slowly because we have to see a lot of stuff to get to understanding the vibration of a name. Yeah? And we're going to start today with this little history, but we're going to start more like a tale, like a little story. Yeah? So, lay back and turn up your volume and listen up. So once upon a time, there was some rishi, some enlightened being, some seer sitting in a cave and just meditating, listening and meditating. Meditating is like listening. So he was listening. And he was kind of enlightened in some ways so that he didn't only listen with the regular ears the way we mere normal people do, but he was actually accessing some subtle sounds. He was accessing this capacity to hear very subtle sounds, similar to what a clairvoyant person can do, when they can see things that are not easily visible or they are not clearly visible to most people. So he was more like a clairaudient. And I say he could be a she. I don't know. It was some rishi, who knows? Yeah. So he was a clairaudient. So he had this clarity of auditory experience, listening. And he managed to hear these sounds of the spheres, these cosmic vibrations. And he or she was meditating on these sounds. And this rishi started to experience how these different sounds that were around them, it was vibrating within as well. And then this person started to try to emulate the sounds. Let's see, how can I start to explore with I'm going to say he, but just forget about the gender, yeah? He started to emulate with his own voice. How would it feel to make this sound? And he started to utilize all this instrument that we have, yeah? That the throat and the mouth and the opening and the tongue and the lips. And he started to recreate these sounds that he was listening. And he found out that not only he could replicate a number of them, but he could also, by doing them, he would feel vibrations in his body. So he created a number of sounds. He differentiated them. And this would become like 52 sounds, which would later be codified as the standard letters, all the basic sounds that we can create, most of them. And it would become pre-Sanskrit, yeah? So Sanskrit would evolve from this, and even the script, the language, written language, the Devanagari script would be evolved later. But this is much earlier, thousands of years before we would even write any of these sounds. So Sanskrit, in a way, more than invented, it was discovered. And the good thing about it is that it explores all the capacity of the mouth with the tongue and the way to vibrate sounds and use the breath to make these sounds. So it's quite comprehensive in the capacity of utilizing different kinds of vibrations, in contrast with other languages that we have. However, this Proto-Indo-European, it's the root of all these languages. Proto-Indo-European would become Sanskrit and Gurmukhi, and on India, right? But it would also evolve into the European languages. That's why it's called Proto-Indo-European. So we will find languages like German or English or Spanish or any Latin or Greek languages. They have a root going back to this Proto-Indo-European, and therefore they have a root to this rishi sitting in a cave and inventing, more than inventing, discovering these sounds. Okay. So these sounds is very interesting that sometimes it would be said that is like the sound of the spheres, the sound of the planets, yeah? And we know that in yoga, in classical yoga, the planets are said to be inside, yeah? Every one of the chakras is associated with a planet, with a certain characteristic and associated psychological resonances, we could say. So when we talk about the sound of the spheres, you could hear also behind the sound vibrating in our chakras. So we're going to see that in detail in the following videos, in the next videos. But yeah, let's go back to this pre-Sanskrit language. Now they had a stable language that they could communicate with, and they would start to create words that would make sense to describe the things that they were experiencing in daily lives. And they would use different sounds specifically for different kind of emotions, feelings, and things and qualities that have some things. We will see more about this when we are going in depth into the consonants. That will be another video further forward. But we will see how several words that have the same letter, they have the same quality. And that's very, very, very interesting. So one of the things is that the Vedas, this is one of the most ancient teachings that there are, and it was transmitted orally for thousands of years before it was even written. Yeah, when the script was invented, then it would become written. But how long was it taught orally? How long was it memorized in such a way that it would become just written later on? We don't know how long it would be, but we know that because there was no writing, the easiest way to memorize things was to create legends and to create stories and to create poems, because those are the things that stick to us. Yeah, like in Spain, hundreds of years ago, I remember that there would be somebody walking down the street and chanting like a poem, like El Mío Cid, yeah, and the people would come out and listen, and this person just memorized the whole poem, yeah. So the same way the Vedas would be memorized, and some of these hymns would be memorized, and they would just be transmitted orally before they were being written. Now, in order to memorize a story, rather than just saying, okay, do these sounds, yeah, they say, well, let's make a story about somebody who is called Rama, yeah, and then every time they are telling the story, they're going to be vibrating Rama, 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 or Shiva, or whatever, yeah, Hare, yeah. So every time you tell the story about these sounds, Govinda, you are actually vibrating the sounds. And so those original sounds that were created because they were having an effect on the body, they say, well, if you want to have this good effect, then say these sounds. But don't just say the sounds, tell this story. So they tell me the story, I memorize the story, and then I say it back to somebody else. And by retelling the story, we are vibrating these sounds. So the effect that saying the sounds of the story has is not necessarily the same as the meaning of the story. And is not so secondary. The story becomes more secondary, let's say, because Rama is doing something, but actually Rama, 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 you are vibrating the R and the M with the A, yeah, Rama. And that has an effect. So all these stories would become relevant, and there would be all these names for God related to different qualities of God, because these godly qualities happen in us and have an effect on us when we say those names. So it's not necessarily that you may believe that there are thousands of gods, but by saying these thousand names, actually referring to God, which is no name, yeah, nirname, yeah, by saying all these names, what you are doing is you are creating inside of you those godly qualities. So that's how the stories are made. That's how stories are created. But then we forget about the stories. We forget about what they stand for, and we just take the stories literally. And then hundreds of years down the line, you will find people telling the stories and arguing about some of the qualities of the stories, something happening. But actually, it's the vibration encoded within them. Of course, the meaning of the story is important, and the stories codify some moral concepts and religious ideas and ethics, politics. There is all sorts of stuff. If you read the Mahabharata, it's really like an incredible story with lots of little different things. But it's about the vibration. That's very, very relevant, and that's something that is not understood properly, generally. Yeah, not many people have this knowledge about how this sound is affecting your body. So my interest lies more in this side, in the vibration. That's coming from my background in mantra yoga and extending into Kundalini yoga. Kundalini yoga contains mantra yoga. If there is something that I like about Kundalini yoga, is that it's very complete. It has postures, it has meditation, and it has a very, very strong component on mantras. We pay a lot of attention to chanting mantras and the vibrating of Naam, yeah, and that's why it comes so very close, so very linked to the Sikh tradition, because the 10 Sikh gurus emphasize so much on the chanting of the Naam. That was it. You don't need to do much more. Just chant the Naam, yeah. So chant the Naam means vibrate, and I like to understand a little bit why are we vibrating that, and what is the effect of that vibration. So this is what the purpose of these videos is. So we forgot the stories, we forgot the meaning and the effect. We took the stories literally, but what does the mantra yogis say about the stories or about the sound? Well, they speak about Om, yeah? Om as a vibration that is universally everywhere. And actually, it's not only everywhere, but it's actually the origin of everywhere. It's actually the creation of everything. You probably are aware of the Big Bang theory from physicists, like there was a big explosion, bang, yeah, and the whole universe is created from that. Well, explosions have sound, yeah? And we could say, if you hear a big explosion, bang, there is a bang, 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 there is an echo that is going to resonate within you, yeah? So, funny echo, the word echo starts like ek onkar, yeah? And the om is a vibration very similar to om. Not necessarily the same, and we may cover this in another video, but there is this echo of this explosion that created the whole universe. And the echo, the vibration, that's the om. It's like the underlying foundation underneath any other sound. We know that sounds have different, like when you have a la, let's say, we're chanting la. I don't know if this is a la, it's probably more like a do, yeah? Do, I don't know. Anyway, I don't have this tune exactly, yeah? But let's say it's a la. La. So if you hear a human doing a la, and you hear a trumpet playing the same note or a piano playing the same note, how do you, if it's the same sound, the same vibration, how do you differentiate what is a trumpet, what is a human, and what is a piano? And well, within one sound, there is very, very many harmonics. So even though you have one bass note, there is other vibrations that are resonating within the sound. Excuse me. And those sounds are different for every instrument. So they will have different timbre, different resonance, the resonance of the cave of the mouth and the heart and the lungs, the nose, all these, the head is a resonance chamber. All these will create qualities that will make it different. Yeah, so you are doing la, but there is other sounds on top of it that are these different vibrations. And a trumpet will be different, and a piano will have different as well. So this is like, there is all these other notes on top, yeah, of the bass note of a la. And we hear the la, but all the others like change the quality of that la. Okay, so imagine that la is the om. So om is like a very, very bass, like the bottom, in a level that is basically not heard. And out of that vibration, there is all these other vibrations on top, and they are like resonances, yeah? And harmonics is called, harmonics, different harmonics, yeah? So imagine that all the other sounds are like harmonics of this bass om. And this om is the sound that resonates everywhere, and it creates everything. And so there is something originating from here, and the knowledge about this, how this creation of the universe from the basic sound of om, that's something that the mantra yogis withhold. It's very interesting. Words, yeah, have meaning. The king's prime minister in India would be called a mantri, and even today, the prime minister, yeah, would be called pradhana mantri. Yeah, so how interesting, eh? Mantra of M-N-T-R, yeah, and prime minister. M-N-S-T-R, yeah? And the prime minister would be called Pradhana Mantri. Which means the chief mantra keeper, yeah? So that's the prime minister of India. Who is the prime minister? The one who is holding the mantras, holding the knowledge, holding the wisdom, yeah? So, okay. I'm going to be exploring a little bit more about what these mantris would know, yeah? Not that necessarily they know it now, but traditionally, what is the wisdom that is communicated within mantra yoga? And what I'm going to be talking about today is mostly, I learned it from my mantra teacher, Mas Murray. You may see him there. Yeah, these are like Yogananda, my family guru, family's guru, yeah. Autobiography of a Yogi is a very important book in my family. That's somehow in the origins of yoga in a very personal way, my family, so it's very important to me. And Charan Singh, that's my teacher. But this is Mas Murray. It's very small, the picture, sorry. I will put a link to his website in the description below of this video. Because he was the first teacher I found before I became a Kundalini yogi. I was mantra yogi, and he traveled all throughout India for years, like a mendicant, like with a ball, mending a ball, and going around the ashrams and looking for anybody who would know anything about mantras, and he just collected all this wisdom, and yeah, he has been doing tours over Europe and teaching mantras for many years, and now I think he's just retired. He's just mostly retired. He may be doing occasional workshops, but very few. And he lives in Portugal as well, like me. I live in Portugal as well. So, so what comes now is I mostly learn it from him. So all the credit goes to him. And if I do any mistake, that's mine. But I will try to communicate that, and I will put it together with what I learned from Kundalini Yoga, the Kundalini Yoga tradition. But what the mantra yogis say, so everything comes from the Om. I mean, if you hear like the Christian version of the Om, of God is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, yeah? Like all powerful, yeah? All knowing all. Omniscient, omnipotent, Om, yeah? Is Om, Om, Om. So what is this Om? Yeah? Om is the creative principle, the sound creative principle. And Hindu cosmologists would call it Shabbat Brahmanyan, God in the form of sound. And there is this concept of Anahata, which is the same name for the fourth chakra, yeah? Anahata means some sound that has not been struck. So if we hit two things together, that creates a sound. But is there a sound created from not hitting two things together? That's Anahata, yeah? And that's like this sound pervading everything in the universe. And that's the description of the yogis, the perception of the yogis. But you know what? Science confirms this now, because scientists, physicists talk about how everything is in motion, everything is vibrating. When I say emotion, it's like vibrating. On a very small level, subatomic level, everything is vibrating. There's nothing in the universe that is not in vibration. And you know, everything that vibrates creates sound, even if it's a very, very low sound that we cannot hear. Humans have only a range of perception, just like we have a range of perception of visible, yeah? Like there is, for example, infrared images that show things that are in a reddish color, but we cannot see it with our own eyes, and we have cameras which can perceive it. So the same way our ears can only perceive a range of vibrations, and there is other vibrations outside of these ones. So everything is vibrating even if we don't hear it. So even light, you know, which is like everything is created from light and is so important. And the light of consciousness, we sometimes call about, light is a phenomenon. It's quite a unique phenomenon in physics. They talk about how it behaves both as a particle and as a wave. What is a wave? A wave is vibration, and particles within, they are vibrating. So we have that everything is vibrating. And we could see, with this metaphor of the light, we can imagine, for example, how you have white light, and then if you put a prism, through the other side of the prism, there come the 7 colors, which is more like the different qualities that the light can take. Now we go around the world. If everything was just white, we would not see anything. We would have no experience of the world. There would be no mountains, no cat, no house, no anything. We would not see it because everything would be white, absolutely white, yeah? So it is when white has different qualities, takes different qualities, when it becomes like green and red and brown and darkish brown or light brown or sienna, you know, there's all these different colors would appear and we would see them, and then this would manifest to us. This would be the manifested world. So when it's purely white, when everything is absolutely white, we cannot see it. Now, take this also like the Om, yeah? When everything is Om, Om would be like the resonance that is like the vibration behind everything, and all the different other sounds that come afterwards. This is like the diversity of audible sounds that help us to have an experience and to perceive the world. This is very much like saying if you just take milk and with a paddle you are moving it, yeah, and you are heating it, yeah, because heat is vibration, yeah, particles are vibrating faster, yeah. So you are with a paddle heating the milk, and you are going slow. You have milk, but then you go a little bit faster, and then you start to have some creamy milk, and then you go faster, and you may create some sort of butter, and then maybe even cream cheese. So cream cheese, milk, butter, are they the same thing? They are. It's just different vibration, yeah? So in the same way, all the other sounds are different from the Om, but they are the same. And everything else, everything that we experience, this shared, is just a different vibration than these glasses. But they are the same. They are just matter vibrating. Yeah. So this is where science is interesting. I always combine things with science. You may have heard about string theory. I would just talk very, very briefly on this. String theory says how if you go deep within matter and you explore it, if you look at this cork, yeah, and you go with a microscope inside, you find molecules. Yeah? And if you go deeper within, then you find atoms. And if you go deeper within, then you may have the typical proton, neutron, electron. But actually, you can go even deeper than that, and you can find really, really subatomic particles like quarks and neutrinos and very exotic named subparticles, yeah? So quantum theory, what it says is, string theory, what it says is that what is in common with all this? That they are all just strings, just a string vibrating. They are quite funny because they vibrate in 11 dimensions. So that's something to reflect upon, yeah? But it's interesting also that there's 11, yeah? Because, the Mul Mantra has 11 particles, yeah? 11 11 syllables, 11 not syllabs, but elements. We will maybe explore that in another video. But yeah, so a string is vibrating in 11 dimensions, and depending on the vibration of this string, it would become an electron, or it would become a neutrino, or a boson Higgs, whatever. So the vibration of this string makes it behave as something. And then eventually you have this material. But inside, it's all just one string vibrating. So that's fascinating. And that goes so much in line with what yogis talk about vibration as the ethers. The ethers are vibrating, and ether is the element that is behind earth and water and fire and air. And fire is just has more vibrational energy than earth. But it's all ether, yeah? The ethers are vibrating, and from them comes all these four elements. And this is just the yogic language to describe how from this basic resonance of these strings vibrating, it just becomes different particles. So that's fascinating. I find it fascinating, yeah. But then different waves, these waves make all this appear. How is it possible that we can just create all this from waves? Well, it looks like a little bit of a fantasy land, and it looks a little bit like a jump in trying to understand this. But let's consider something. I'm gonna use colors because I like using colors, and I haven't used any color today yet. So let's do. Let's say you have your little house, and here on the roof, yeah, deep, we have one of these old antennas for TV, yeah, and you would be picking up all these waves. They would be sent to you, and deep in your room, you would have your TV, and your TV had images, yeah. So how is it possible that this cable, that these waves are captured and they become like images? We can see a whole movie. You can see right now you're seeing this image, yeah, me explaining things, talking, and this is just vibration. This is just waves that have been translated into images. So we see this phenomenon all the time, and we are very familiar with it, so it doesn't look strange. But how about if there was some way, something that is codifying how this becomes real, happens, but it's just vibration inside. So this happens naturally in the universe. And the thing is, if that is so, then every object, everything, even in our bodies, every organ has its own vibration that is creating the organ. And if that is so, could it be that when an organ is healthy, is vibrating in one particular way, and when it is unhealthy, it vibrates in a different way? It has changed its vibration and it's becoming unhealthy. And now we come into how from all traditions, not just Hindu healers, but also in Australian didgeridoos, for example, no, they would use the Aborigines in Australia would use didgeridoos to as a form of healing, and that's vibration. So projecting that vibration on the person would help for the healing. I don't know anything about how to use didgeridoos for healing, but if anybody knows, please write in the chat how do you use it and what is the effect. I would love to know, as somebody who has been using these for years, and what is your experience of using sound. And there we would go into the different kind of sounds that the didgeridoo produces, which is quite incredible, yeah? And the tube, the shape of the tube and all that. We will go into this for a moment with something else. But African shamans. One of the things that Mas Murray was telling me in one of his journeys, he was traveling through Africa, hitchhiking and trains all the way down from the Mediterranean down to South Africa. And on his journeys, he met in a village, there was this shaman. And he was, one night he was called because there was a kid, one boy in the village was very sick. And apparently he had really, really high fevers and they were scared for his life. So afraid for his life, they called this shaman and he went in, and Mas Murray accompanied them. And the shaman sat next to the boy and he took out some drums that he had. And he started beating on the drums. Some kind of rhythm, I don't know. And through the beating of the drums, eventually you could see that the boy was starting to calm down and cool down and slowly relax and fall into a peaceful sleep. And they would touch him and the fever had gone. So incredible. Just through the use of vibration, you could have such powerful healing effect. And the boy was better. Next day was really recovered. So drums is vibration. And at least in Kundalini Yoga, we say that there is three pillars for mantra chanting. There is rhythm, projection, and pronunciation. And vibration of the drums would come into the form of rhythm, and I believe rhythm is super important. But I don't know when we are going to explore that. I mean, we may explore that in another video. Projection, the way to project the sound, is critical, very, very important. And then pronunciation. And for pronunciation, this is what these videos are going to be about. This mantra course is going to work on the pronunciation. But also about why is it important to pronounce. and I will try to help with the pronunciation. Even though I am Spanish, even in English, even speaking English, I have a very, very strong accent. I'm aware of that. I just cannot change it. That's some people can emulate other languages, and you cannot tell where they are from. That's not me. I have a Spanish accent, and I'm sure speaking the Gurmukhi mantras or Sanskrit mantras, I'm sure I'm going to have a very strong Spanish accent, but I'll do my best. Anyway, going back. So this was about African shamans, aboriginals in Australia, Hindu healers, any culture, they were using sound for healing. So let's talk about not the helpful, but the destructive effect of sound, because sound is not just about how great it is. You may have experience being in the kitchen, eating your dinner with your family, and suddenly the fridge stops, and everybody's like, "Whoa!" Suddenly, it's like the body relaxes. Wow! And you didn't notice it was there on, because the brain, what the brain does is that when there is a pattern, it kind of ignores that pattern and allows you to focus on whatever you are doing. So there is a pattern of sound, the brain will ignore it. It's okay, like a metaphor. Let's say you are driving, yeah, and it's raining. And then there is these things to clean the windscreen, yeah? The windscreen wipers, I think it's called. So they are wiping the water, and it follows a pattern. And you just don't see it. You just see the road and are driving. Imagine if you didn't have this capacity to isolate and ignore repetitive patterns. You would be like looking at the at the wipers instead of looking at the road. So the brain just has this capacity to ignore it. It doesn't mean that it's not affecting you, particularly in the sense of sound. Yeah. So the fridge is on. There is this vibration, and you don't hear it, but it's affecting you, and you are tense. The fridge stops, and then it's such a relaxed. So if you were tense, that's not healthy. So there is some vibrations that are happening and they are not healthy. So let me tell the story, another story, of Dr. Vladimir Gavreau. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a French name. I don't speak French. I will put his name in the comments of the video again. And he was a military researcher. I think he was actually Russian. He was born in Russia, but he moved to France, and he was doing research on military research. This was in 1957, so right after the Second World War, and he was very interested in robots, sending robots into the battlefield to fight for us. Yeah, and but something happened. He had a studio, an office, and when they would get inside the office, he as his team, they would all start feeling sick, and they would be there for a while and start wanting to throw up, and very, very dizzy and headaches, yeah? And they didn't know what was happening. And they went through everything. They checked whether there was some sort of spores in the ambience, some biochemical residue of something. They checked everything. It was very hard to find what was it. And I believe one day they found his cup was with a coffee or some drink or tea on the table, and he saw on the surface some ripples, and he realized there is some vibration here, and we don't hear it, but you can feel it on the surface. So he saw these ripples, and he started to look what could be creating the ripples, and eventually they isolated that there was a fan. And this building had been adapted from something else, and there was this very large tube. And the fan was on the other side, and it was vibrating very slowly. something like 7 hertz, I think it was. And this tube was amplifying the vibration. All this sound was becoming amplified, means it became bigger. But because it was so low, we could not hear it. He could not hear it. But the sound was hitting the body. And when it was hitting at that particular frequency, it was making you feel sick. So that was very interesting for a laboratory who is researching, doing military research. And so he focused his research on this, and they created a number of prototypes of what I think they called it the trumpet of death, something like that. That's really bizarre experiments with a tube that was like 2 meters in diameter. So that was, I do like this, but it's not like this. It's much bigger than my arms. 2 meters in diameter and 22 meters long. And they would project this frequency, and they found this frequency that 7 hertz, around the 3 to 7 hertz, that's the range of death. And it doing the test, the problem they had is that when they were doing the test, it was so disturbing to themselves that they felt that even in one situation they felt that they almost died. And I've heard reports that some of the technicians trying it, they died. The whole body turned like, the organs turned like jelly or something. I don't know about that, but that what they recognize is that when the instrument was on, they would feel so bad that they would spend days sick, and even for a few seconds. So they had to create a kill switch to switch it off, because at some point it was so disturbing that they could not even know how to stop it. So they had to create a kill switch. And they tried to isolate it in many ways and just couldn't find a way to do it, because low sounds vibrate through everything, and they cross through everything, and they just got into the body. And it was extremely disturbing, and it could definitely kill people. The only problem was that it would kill everyone around, not just the opposite side, let's say. So do we think that they didn't research anymore? They just put it in a box and forgot about it? Or did they continue researching on this and we don't really know about it? Probably the second, This, when something is very efficient, it works, they probably studied. They probably studied also so to know how can we defend ourselves from that. And I don't think he found an answer. He was actually baffled that there was no clear way on how to stop this sound from affecting us. But we don't know any more about this story, but it's interesting anyway. So that's the destructive nature of sound, Now, okay, so if you project a sound that is disrupting the frequency of the organs in the body, that's making you sick. But there is a natural frequency that is helping for the body. Now, the next research I'm going to talk about, this is Dr. Hans Jenny from the Cymatics Institute in 1967. This is a little bit more modern. And this is more on the constructive nature of sound. This is very interesting. He created this institute called Cymatics. I will write also in the description below. And he evolved some ideas that started from Galileo Galilei in the 1630s. Really old, Galileo Galilei, the Eppur si muove, famous physicist who was talking about the astronomist mainly. And then this research was a little bit evolved. Robert Hooke and Claden, I'm not sure about the name, how to pronounce it, on the discoveries of the theory of sound. But eventually came Dr. Hans Jenny in 1967, and what he did is he thought, well, maybe sound has a specific kind of manifestation on the physical world. And he started to do these experiments based on these other physicists that I talked about. And he created a surface, like a drum, with a big drum, and very much like the tea who was moving with the ripples when there was this fan making sound. He was doing that with a drum, and he would put some fine dust, kind of dust, like some sort of dust on top, and he would project a vibration. Now the surface of the drum wants to vibrate, and when you would put a vibration, it would vibrate and it would create certain patterns. And let me show a few of these patterns. Okay, so he tried with liquids. He tried with some material that would be liquid, and then it could cool down, and it would become solid, so that you could see the pattern, the 3D pattern. This would be on liquids, creating these shapes. Yeah. Then we have this kind of pattern. Yeah, this is quite incredible. This is just one or two sounds. I believe it's just two sounds, two different frequencies at the same time, and it creates these shapes. And to me, it looks so close to the shape of maybe fish scales, or you can even see it on the skin of a pineapple. So this is just one or two sounds vibrating at once. And this is what it creates in the 3D material world. Some sounds on bubbles, they can make them become these flat sides appearing on the bubbles. Yeah? Quite interesting. And it's a dynamic thing. They would put this talcum powder, and it would be moving. There is a video of this on YouTube. You can look for cymatics and you can find it. And this looks so much like an eye, and all these vibrations are moving, and this is like almost like boiling in the center, and it looks like a life. But it's incredible. I mean, this is creating from sound. You're just projecting sound, and these are the things that are happening. Another liquid. This looks very much like the spine of a snake or something like that. And he would use this liquid that it would become solid, and this is what he would create as well, these kind of things. So there's one sound, this becomes solid, and then would stop projecting the sound. It is very much like a coffee bean, yeah, or like a seashell. Yeah. So could it be that there is this vibration all throughout the universe, and different shapes appear? And why does it appear in this way or not another? I don't know that. But there is research showing different shape structures from different sounds. So if there are all these sounds around, this is how a 3D material object can come from very simple sounds. I mean, this seashell is quite a complex surface, yeah? And this is just a few sounds creating this shape. And then you see pineapples and fishes who share the same particular structure because maybe they vibrate in that particular way. In fact, we don't know why. When there is conception, and then there's two cells separating into 2, into 4, into 8, and multiplying all these cells. And then, if we continued for 9 months, at the end, we would be born like a soup of cells, yeah? But we don't. At some point, the body starts to decide, okay, so now these cells are going to be brain, and this one's heart, and this one's kidneys, and this one's whatever. So, and then the kidneys take this shape, this particular shape, which is probably associated to some particular sound, and that's the ideal sound. And if you are affected by different vibrations, then that's going to affect the healthiness of your kidneys. Anyway, we could carry on with this for a while, but I think you get the picture now, how we are affected by sound, how we are created from sound, and so if we can use didgeridoos or we can use different drums to heal, why not our voice? Right? We have it with us. Why not chant? And also it's our voice with our own resonance. Could it not be possible that the way our voice is designed is specifically perfect to heal ourselves? I believe so. And mantra yogis believe so. So this is how the whole world of mantra chanting is born. Now, let's take the semantics out of the way. Mantra, yeah. Man, tra. Man, man comes from manas. Even the word man, human, yeah, man, it comes from this Proto-Indo-European root. As I said, no, many words, even in English, come from the same root as the ones in Sanskrit, and we find a lot of them in yoga. So man is one of them. Man is called man because it's an animal which has a mind. Manas means mind, so man is mind. And tra, you can see, as I said, the different sounds communicate different feelings, and you can see this tra in many words in English, like traverse, like trap. Yeah. You can see it in instrument. Tra, yeah. Generally, as the meaning of tra, it's often translated as protect. Now, so this could be like to traverse, to cross through the mind. You could see trap, like a tool to trap the mind, so the mind doesn't go all over the place, like an instrument. Yeah, using the man as an instrument, or to protect the mind from some external influence that we don't want, or protect ourselves from the mind. That's another translation that we could use. So there we go. We are coming to almost the end of the video, but this is how mantras are born, and the different sounds will have different effects. As we saw, a particular vibration will have a particular effect on a kidney or a heart, and different sounds will have different effects. So not any word can become a mantra. So as an example, let us do a little, I don't know, I'm thinking about whether to do it or not, because I'm not sponsored and I have nothing to do with Coca-Cola, but let's try this, okay? Let's try this. Let's imagine that you want to do a mantra like Coca-Cola. Let's see how it feels to chant Coca-Cola, and let's see how it feels to chant Vaheguru. And Vaheguru is a mantra, Coca-Cola is not. And let's see if you get an experience, because Vaheguru is like the culmination of what Guru Nanak said, like the 4 yugas, the 4 yugs, the 4 eras, yeah? And Vaheguru would be like the culmination for Kali Yuga, which contains Vaheguru, and Va would be Vishnu, and He Hari, and Gu Govinda, and Ru would be Ram. So this is like the 4 names, yeah? Even though God has no name, yeah, like, Nirname, we say, but Vaheguru would be like the chanting of Vaheguru. Remember, the names are not like thinking that there are 4 different gods. It's about calling upon the vibrations of these sounds which create this godly state within you. Okay, so let's experiment. Let's try chanting, if you can chant with me. Just close your eyes and pay attention to how it feels and chant with me. Coca-Cola, 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 Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, 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 Coca-Cola. Now, Waheguru. Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. Okay, I don't know if you had the opportunity to experience the difference. Certainly, to me, chanting Coca-Cola does not make me want to drink a Coca-Cola, while chanting Waheguru does make me want to keep on chanting Waheguru. So there is a feeling within that is very difficult to describe what is happening, but it's an experience, yeah? We will go in depth into the different sounds, and we will maybe analyze more in depth Waheguru when we know what Va, what He, what Gu and Ru is. We will go into that in the following videos. But let's go to the final detail of this of today, which is the vibration Va, He, Gu, Ru is not the same as the meaning of Waheguru. The meaning is difficult to translate, but Va is like incredible, amazing, wondrous, yeah? And Guru is Guru, bringing light to the darkness or finding light in the darkness. I have a video on that already, talking about the meaning of Guru. So Waheguru would be like enlightening realization, like the realization of the light. Wow, and the ecstasies that you feel through that. So Va is about wow, wonder, yeah? But when we translate, it doesn't work very well. So let's just say enlightening realization. Let's translate it like that. There could be many ways to translate it, but let's try to chant it Waheguru and chant enlightening realization and see how it feels. Enlightening realization, enlightening realization. Sorry, not relaxation, realization, sorry. Enlightening realization, 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 enlightening realization. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. Sadam, I believe the experience speaks louder than any word I can say on the difference between the vibration of the mantra and the translation of the mantra. For now, this is enough, and we will come back. We will come back on the second part of this course talking about vowels. What are vowels? How do they affect us? And what's the meaning behind them? What's the psychological, philosophical, transcendental, metaphysical meaning of vowels? But until next time, thank you very much for watching. Satnam, like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you hit the little bell by the subscription button, you will be notified when I upload a new video, and you can follow the course. If you want to follow in the course, then you press the bell, and then when the next part comes in, it will send you a little message to you. So, Satnam, thank you very much. Until next time. Waheguru.